I like those questions.
All right. Like, I'm also a digital arts student, but what sort of thing in the portfolio, like, would you say having a specific portfolio or more of a wide range? Like, I do a lot of modeling, but also sketches and, like, programming. So, like, all together, do they like to see a wide range of talents or excelling at lighting or...
I would focus on whatever your best effort is. Like, if there's something that you look at that you've done and you're like, that's okay, we may go, oh, that's okay, right?
Yeah.
So whatever you think your best sort of strengths are,
yeah, at this point,
show that, and then anything else is also good.
Yeah, but it's definitely quality over quantity. If you do like two things very well, send those two things in. Don't pad it with a lot of stuff that you're not really proud of, because then we're going to see that also, and you know, we might look past the two pieces that are really good if you have a lot more that is just okay or not your strengths. So if you're not a great animator, don't throw in a couple, you know, just simple animations on something to make it look better. But yeah, I would focus on what you're good at and just, you know, tighten those up the best you can.
So another thing though is you're a student and you're trying to fill out your portfolio, and generally there's kind of three different areas for games. There's fantasy, World War II, and what's the third one? Sci-fi. So if you have a quiver of different models that you worked on, polish them up, make them look really good, and then customize your demo to, you know, whatever studio that you're going to be applying to. You know, so if they're working on fantasy games, put all your fantasy stuff in it. If it's World War II stuff, put all your World War II stuff in there. You know, so that you kind of have, you can mix and match. It doesn't have to be the same demo for everybody. You can kind of customize it.
That's a good point. Whenever I first applied here, I took a picture that Chris Messon had drawn like a long time ago for, I think, the Warcraft 2 manual. It was like an orc and an elf fighting, and I just modeled it out in 3D and it's exactly how it was, and you know, just kind of one extra little thing to impress them. So it's always trying to be unique and stand out, and it's totally cool to multitask. A lot of us at work have multiple skills. Just make sure, like these guys said, that it's like your best stuff, because you just want to show the cream of the crop.
Thank you.
Hey guys, just wondering, when you guys are doing the design process, have you ever have a class with each other? For example, you're designing a model, and then the other guy just say your design is horrible, and then how do you guys solve that kind of situation? Thanks.
We usually just hit the guy, kind of, bam. No, usually when we come up with the design for Starcraft and any of our games, it's a lot of it, and it sounds kind of hokey, it's a team effort. So design will come to us, and they'll say, all right, we're looking for a specific type of unit that does this. Say, I'm looking for something that is an air attacker that only attacks ground. We don't want it to look like the Banshee in Starcraft 2, because that's what that already does. You know, so we have to come up with some other ideas. Well, what could it be? A lot of times also the artist will just draw a cool picture, and the designers will go, oh yeah, this is awesome, we got to put this in. Now we got to figure out where to put it in. So there's a lot of ideas that get passed around the team, and a lot of times we'll just make a really, really rough model, and we'll let them kind of work around with it. We used to do a lot of final art, and then they would say, yeah, this unit's just not working out, we're going to get rid of it. Now we still kind of have some of that in Starcraft, and all those end up being in our single player campaign. So certain things like, you know, you'll see the Firebat, you'll see the Goliath, things that aren't in the multiplayer. We had at one time made them for multiplayer, and then decided, no, let's see if we can make something cooler. Or the designers will say, let's make something different. And so a lot of times we sort of bounce ideas back and forth on each other, and then put in something that's placeholder. And if it works, then we'll make the final model.
Yeah, it's all about the iterations that we do. We start with one thing, and you know, over time, like that one unit that we started with 3 years ago will have completely changed by the time we actually get it in the game. For the final game anyway. So yeah, we iterate on almost everything that you see, and that's why we're not done until we're done. We can always do something better, I think.
A good example of that is the Thor unit, where we came up with this idea, you know, back in the day we're brainstorming after Warcraft 3, and it's like, cool, giant robots, you know, some kind of awesome mech thing. We didn't know exactly what it was going to be. Sammy had some cool concepts. And so we finally modeled it, put it in, you know, years ago. And design was like, hey, that's awesome. We don't really need that right now. And we're like, but it was so awesome. They're like, we understand how, how much that adds to the game and the flavor. So they actually were super cool about it. And over the years, we finally found a good role for it. And we tweaked it a lot, so much so that even during the beta, we actually changed the model. So the shipping one and the beta one are actually two different Thor models. So that again shows us, even like the last hour, we're always working for perfection and trying to iterate again and again.
Can I add? Is that why it takes 10 years to make just one game?
Yeah.
And the other thing is, are you guys going to put? I saw Protoss Purifier in the art gallery. Are you guys going to put that model in game anytime soon?
We had it at one time in the early versions of Starcraft 2. It was called the Soul Reaver. It was called the Purifier. We had all different kinds of names for it. We've learned to not name anything anymore and just call it New Zerg Unit 1, 2. I mean, we just don't give a name because we end up calling it that years after. But you can probably bet that a lot of the old concept art that we still have will be resurrected at some point for something. If we like an image or we like an idea, but it's not appropriate at the time to put it in a certain thing, we'll just hold on to it instead of messing up the game and trying to force something in like we did with the Thor. Thank you. We'll kind of wait now that we've learned our lesson and hold it until it's ready to be added to the game.
Hi, for the development of these mods and what you do on a day-to-day basis, how closely do you have to work with the engineering team?
Well, we work with the programmers quite a bit. I mean, there's a couple different layers. There's like the main code guys that handle the fundamentals of the engine and what's happening. And we also have some guys called the data specialists, and they're kind of like the liaison. They actually implement all this stuff, and we have a really cool system that very quickly, within minutes, we can put a new spell together. It's like, hey, we want something that shoots out banelines, and when it explodes, it turns a bunch of SCVs, and then they gravitate towards somebody and explode in 5 different colors. And with our system, we can put together stuff really quickly. And the cool thing with the mods is we have such a huge library built up from making Wings of Liberty that we can really quickly put something in there, prototype it, and if we dig it, then we'll go in later on the next day and start putting like real art for it. So we work pretty closely. I work with the data guys every day, basically. We're emailing back and forth. They go to the desk, we hang out and talk about like the best way to do things, because a lot of times you'll have an idea like this is going to be badass and it's going to do this awesome thing, and then you realize, okay, the engine quite can't handle that, or the frame rate could be an issue, or gameplay stuff. So then you talk with them and figure out what's actually viable, what can actually do it, and you kind of compromise. And again, it's just like everything. We keep iterating, and you're just trying to come up with that middle ground that works best for art and design.
Another thing that's really cool about the mods, is that you'll see them do stuff with it in the community that it was never really intended to do. Like when you see them modded out and it's a first-person shooter, it's like, oh my God, I never intended the animation to look like that, but it still holds up, and the textures and stuff. And I always find that amazing that that works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
No problem. Thanks.
I was wondering, what kind of programs do you guys use to design your models and animations?
We don't know, I guess.
No. For modeling, we mostly use 3D Studio Max, and everybody pretty much relies on Photoshop for any digital painting or texturing. For animating,
I use 3D Max for animating. A lot of people like to use Maya. It doesn't really matter what package you use, all the principles of animation still apply to both, so there isn't one that's better than the other.
Here comes trouble.
Hello. This question is for everybody. What's a favorite thing that you've been working on recently?
I'll take my favorite thing I've been working on recently is Blizzard Dota, because it's allowed me to always fulfill the dream that I've had of one day creating a Blizzard fighter, where we don't necessarily have a Street Fighter game where we can have our characters battling each other, but this one sort of takes care of that for me. So I love to see the franchises duking it out in a non-lore screwing up environment for all the lore people out there. It's just for fun. It's just fun. So that would be my favorite. Mr. Dilling?
I have to agree that the Dota map is probably our favorite one just because, again, like you said, we get to do something kind of outside the norm. We get to make a tile set that doesn't have to be like, oh, and planet so-and-so, and 50 years ago, Kerrigan did this, and it has to be like that. We enjoy the franchise a lot, and the lore and history goes with it, and we have a great time with it, but sometimes it's fun just to do something totally random and, off the beaten path a little bit.
I really enjoyed working on the Abomination. He's a lot of fun. I mean, when you look at him, you're just like, oh, that's so cool. I want to make this thing look so fat, and yet he's really super fast. And I went back to Phil Gonzalez on him, and I'm like, you know what, that guy needs more fat back boobs on him. So he went in and he remodeled it for me and stuff, and I put in some bones and made it all jiggly and stuff, and it worked out really good. So he was a lot of fun.
Well, for me, I'm actually trying to do a little more concept work, especially for Heart of the Swarm, so trying to get back into doing some painting, which I've been neglecting for the past couple of years, and tightening up those skills. So I'm actually enjoying learning again.
That's really cool.
Thank you, Sophia. That's my little daughter that asked that question. Taking up valuable time. What's the matter? Get back in your closet.
Hi. For the Warcraft 3 art tools, they used a very, very old version of 3ds Max. For the new art tools for Starcraft 2, will it be compatible with the most up-to-date version, or will we have to go to like version 6 or 7 or?
I think we're going to like 3 Studio Release 1, possibly. No. That's really old, in case somebody knows. That's what I learned.
Geek joke, sorry.
Yeah.
You'll have to work on your Amiga for that one.
Actually, we were not going to release a whole lot of information about that right now, except for we are going to release art tools sometime in the future. But the plan right now basically is to have it to be the most up-to-date version possible at the time we release the tools. So I can't say what version that is, but yeah, we're trying to keep it a lot more current than the old War 3 tools.
Thank you very much.
My question is about the art direction for the next expansion. Like the current Wings of Liberty had a really big difference in art direction from the original StarCraft. I'm wondering if there's some new artists that are influencing your art direction for Heart of the Swarm.
No, we have the same team that worked on StarCraft. Basically, like Brian Sousa back here was also on the original StarCraft, myself. A lot of the artists on the team were from the original StarCraft. So the way that we're going to be proceeding with Heart of the Swarm is sort of the same that we did with Wings of Liberty, is take kind of what the basic direction of the original is and then try to update it to a new 2010 sort of look. We're dealing with a 3D game now, so things are going to look a lot more sharp and crisp than the 10 pixel high Zealot we used to have in 1998.
We've all learned so much since StarCraft 1 and the designs and everything. We've pushed it to the next level. I think if you look back, a lot of the art is similar to StarCraft 1, but when we had a 256 palette to work with versus now the 16 million palette, we can get so much more colors and details into these models that we couldn't have before. So.
But it'll basically look more like Wings of Liberty than StarCraft Brood War.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Hi.
Hi.
Hey.
So when working on StarCraft 2 on the art side, what was the most frustrating, problematic thing that you had to deal with?
The art team, mostly. It was so hard to get them to do anything that I wanted. No, I'm just teasing. One of the things that was actually kind of a pain to deal with was we had all just come from working on Warcraft 3 and the Frozen Throne. We had come from working on some World of Warcraft. So now we were in a sci-fi world. And a lot of times our stuff started looking a little bit too bright or a little bit too superheroic in proportion, a little bit too bouncy in the animation. So we had to re-gear ourselves to kind of learn what StarCraft was again. And I like to make the joke, we would have something on the screen. Okay, scale the head down a little bit by 15%. Scale the hands down 15%. Drop the saturation, that's like kind of the brightness of the color. Make that about 15% less, and then it started looking more StarCraft. So whenever we make something, that is looking a little too Warcraft or something, we just say, hey, 15 that, and they kind of know what to do, and it turns out looking like Starcraft. Yeah, that for me, that was